Our next guest brought an elegance and a gracefulness as well as pure excitement to the blue singlet pursuit of fast bowling. For the spectator, there are few more thrilling sights than that of a legendary paceman working from his long run. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please. And none could seduce a crowd and terrify batsmen in quite the same way as Michael Holding. Famously nicknamed Whispering Death because of his stalking of the world's foremost batsman, Michael is one of the greatest of all West Indian fast bowlers. Blessed with the lithe body of the elite athlete, he generated colossal pace from the most beautiful and rhythmical approach into his delivery stride. For many of us here, it is hard to believe that it will be 40 years in November since Michael made his debut against Greg Chappell's Australian team in Brisbane. Michael had the great joy of being a part of the incomparable West Indian teams that bestrode the game through the late 1970s and 1980s. In 60 Test matches from 1975 to 1986, he took 249 wickets at 23, claiming 5 or more wickets in an innings on 13 occasions. Twice he had 10 or more for the match. In 222 first-class matches, he claimed 778 wickets at 23, taking 5 or more wickets in an innings on 39 occasions. On 5 occasions, it was 10 or more. These days, the silk is not in the run-up, but in his mellifluous voice as one of the game's most knowledgeable, thoughtful and forthright commentators. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the most affable and generous of men, the incomparable Michael Holding. It's wonderful to have you here. But as I said to Brian before, a bit subduing day, really, for the Caribbean community.
Why is that, mate?
Oh dear, as I said to Brian, we don't want to become deeply involved in the, thank you mate, in the politics and, of it all. I want to go back, you know, given, I mean, it was a baptism of fire for you 40 years ago as a young man starting off in a Test career and having to confront the fairly verbose Chappell brothers, among others. What do you...
brother wasn't the problem, you know. So was a fellow called Jeff Thompson and did it.
They were the problem.
They would only embarrass you. Those guys could hurt you.
Good point. What do you feel looking back over that period? 40 years since you made your debut come November.
It doesn't feel that long, Mike, to be honest. 40 years has passed just like that. I still feel as if I'm 35. I would like to believe I'm 35, but then when I try to do certain things, I realize I'm not quite 35. But I don't worry too much about that, because people say if you think at 60 you can do what you are doing at 35, it just means at 35 you're no damn good.
It is often presumed that if you didn't play cricket, you were going to be the Usain Bolt of your time. But this was not true, was it? Was this Tony Cozier sort of doing the trick?
Yes. There was a fellow called Seymour Newman that I played under 19 cricket for Jamaica with. He was a fast bowler like myself. Well, in fact, he was a real fast bowler. When I was under 19, 17, 18, 19, I was bowling some nice, gentle outswingers. And he was extremely quick. He was also an athlete, and he then went on to represent Jamaica at the Olympics. The first man to beat Alberto Wantorino from Cuba. Those of you who remember athletics from the days of 440 yards, not 400 meters. And somehow Tony Cozier mistakenly took me for Seymour Newman. And he spread the word that if I did not play cricket, I could have gone to the Olympics. I could have, but I would have had to buy my own ticket.
I was in Jamaica a couple of years. It's interesting as you mentioned this, because a couple of years back, I had the good fortune to go to give the Frank Worrell lecture, and everybody there was talking about Usain Bolt and not talking about cricket. And I was just wondering whether suddenly this is emblematic of what is happening in the Caribbean.
Well, as you know, my people love winners. at the moment Usain Bolt is the fastest man in the world, everybody will talk about Usain Bolt. If Usain Bolt had come around in the 70s and 80s, they would have spoken about him just as much as now, but they would still be also talking about the West Indies because, you know, we love our cricket in the Caribbean. But when you have someone like Usain Bolt, everyone will gravitate towards him. With the West Indies team not doing as well as we would like, obviously there will be less people talking about cricket and everyone talking about Usain Bolt, which is quite natural. What I would like to see is cricket getting back to some sort of prominence where we can share the spotlight with Usain Bolt, or by that time he might be having grandchildren. But that's the sort of thing that you're hoping for, because we have been producing athletes in the Caribbean, in Jamaica in particular, for many, many years. We set the 4x400 meters, 400 yards rather, 440 yards world record in the Helsinki Olympics. That was in the 50s. That's a long, long time ago. So we have been producing athletes for a long time.
Do you think the people of the Caribbean still care as deeply about the game?
They do. They pretend that they don't. A lot of them will tell you, oh, I no longer watch, but they can tell you the score at the end of the day. They just want to see the West Indies team doing well again. I remember some few years ago, I don't remember exactly when it was, Sarwan and Chris Gayle were playing for the West Indies, and I get along quite well with those guys, along with some others. And people were not too satisfied with the way the West Indies team were playing, and of course they were getting jeered at times. And I called them in Trinidad once, because they were getting upset as well. They were losing interest, and I called them in Trinidad once, and I said to them, listen, I just need to talk to you guys for a few minutes. And I expressed to them the fact that people who are jeering them, they are jeering them because they want to see them do better. And as soon as West Indies start winning again, they'll realize that people still love them. It just so happens that the West Indies won that game in Trinidad and then moved on to Guyana. When the plane was landing in Guyana, there were people on the tarmac waiting on them. And I went to Chris and I said, you see what I'm talking about, Chris? They were ushered into the VIP room. They could hardly fit into the VIP room, the amount of people that were in there waiting on them. So it's not that people in the Caribbean no longer want to see cricket or love cricket, but as we all know, people love winners. And those that are hiding behind their windows, pretending that they don't want to see and are not watching, as soon as West Indies start doing well again, they'll turn up in their droves.
I noticed that the ICC annual conference is going to be held in Barbados for the first time come June.
Yes.
Now, that would indicate perhaps that the rest of the cricket world sees there is a need for something to be done urgently for the sake of the future of West Indian cricket. Could this lead to some positives?
Well, I would hope they would do more than hold a meeting in the Caribbean.
Exactly. We've wanted them to do a lot more for that for a long time.
For a very, very long time. But unfortunately, I'll say this, and I know I'm going to get some stick for it. I think cricket has been hijacked by a few countries recently, and I'm not too happy with that either.
Yes. Yeah, good point. Good point. It's good that you're still coming off your long run.
Still coming off my long run, Mike. I'm soon retired, so I have nothing to hold back now.
And one of the points that you've made off your long run has been really interesting, is that you felt that the treatment of the brilliant young Pakistani, Mohammad Amir, has been so unjust. Do you think the game has abandoned him?
No, I don't think his treatment has been unjust. He committed a serious crime.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say his treatment was unjust. I was just hoping that people would not be as harsh on him with their comments as some people have been. He got 5 years. He went in, so that's away from the game, not in jail. He went to jail, but not for that period of time. When the news came out that he was going to be allowed to play again, a lot of people came out with some vitriol against him, saying, why should he ever be allowed to play again? Well, I know people that have committed murder that are back in society and working again. I know people, I won't call their profession, that created a bit of a problem in 2008 around the world. Some of them didn't even go to jail. And they created more of a problem than this young man did.
Yeah.
So I think people need to be a little bit more understanding, especially when you're at that age, 18, 19, 20. I came here when I was 21. I was naive as hell. I thought when you were out, you were out. That'll show you how naive I was. But then again, young people will make mistakes, Mike. My problem is when young people or people make the same mistakes over and over. Then I cannot excuse them. But when someone as young as that makes a mistake, as he did, I think we have got to be able to have forgiveness in our hearts, give them a second opportunity. If they come back and recommit, well, then we can shut them off.
Yeah, good, strong point. Now, I want to get to education, and I want to get to language with your fantastic Jamaican twang. Now,
I hope you have not been speaking to Channel 9. Because the first time I did commentary on Channel 9, the producer said, "What was that?" He thought it was a can rolling down the hill.
Now, tell me, while we're on patois, because your mum was a school teacher,
yes,
and a fine school teacher, she didn't want you to speak patois, as I remember, when you were a boy.
Well, to be honest, I went to KC, Kingston College, which is the high school that I went to at age 10. And when I went to Kingston College, I pretty much spoke the Queen's English. And my friends shunned me. Who is this kid speaking English? And eventually, I am now bilingual. I can speak patois, which is broken English, and not the Queen's English anymore, because I've spoken so much patois these days that I have to practice before I get back to England whenever I'm going to do commentary again. But my mother, education was the be-all and end-all for her. She started teaching when she was a teenager. Then she went to England and studied in England, got her, don't think it was a degree those days, a diploma, and she taught for many, many years. Even after she retired, she taught. Marlon Samuels, who now plays for the West Indies, he almost got kicked out of school, and my mother, who has a very close connection to the school that I went to. My father went there, my brother went there, I went there. She taught there, my sister taught there. She coached the choir there. So, close connection. She called the headmaster and said, "No, please, send him to me. I'll give him whatever extra lessons he needs to make sure that he stays in school." So that was paramount for her. And because I grew up under her roof, that pretty much became paramount for me as well. If it hadn't been for, I owe my life to two particular Australian gentlemen. One of them is Kerry Packer. Some people might not like to hear it, but I'll tell you anyway. Kerry Packer brought me back into cricket. Some batsmen are going to hate Kerry Packer now. But I was at university because my mother insisted that I get an education and that I get, according to her, a piece of paper behind my name when Kerry Packer started. And that's why I went back into cricket. Because I did not intend to be a professional cricketer. There wasn't enough money in the game to make me become a professional cricketer those days. My first tour to Australia, 4 months, I got $600 for the entire tour. So you know what I'm talking about. So it was Kerry Packer who brought me back into cricket. But my mother wanted all our kids to be educated. And that, I think, was very good of her, more her than my father. And I think that is where we have to go as far as the world is concerned. The more people we can educate, the better off the world will be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The very mention of you and Packer, we're going to do a Satchmo. The brings me to that beautiful, one of the great stories of cricket is Michael Holding and the Little Red Bank Book. You've got to do it. Michael Holding, the Little Red Bank Book is one of the pearls of the game.
I left school in 1973 and I started working at what was then Barclays Bank in their computer department. So naturally, I had a bank account at the bank. The computer department was upstairs and the bank was downstairs. I had my bank account in the bank because that's how they paid you. And I had a little red bank book, savings book. A lot of you might not remember those good old days. But when I signed for World Series cricket, Austin Robertson and Tony Gregg visited me in Jamaica to sign this contract for World Series cricket for Kerry Packer. And they said, you will get 1/3 of the money up front. No, all this is a secret, and I'm not supposed to be talking to anybody about this at the time. You'll get 1/3 of the money up front as soon as we get back to Australia. It will be in your bank account. Give us the details. And they said within a week or two at most, the money would be in the bank account. So I said, okay. Now, all this is going on. To be honest, I do not believe a word of this. Because 2 years ago, I came to Australia, I got $600 for the entire tour. And all of a sudden, a gentleman by the name of Kerry Packer, who I know absolutely nothing about, I only heard that he owned Channel 9 in Australia and women's magazines. Was that the name of it? and that he has all this money, and he's all of a sudden going to be paying cricketers $25,000 per season, moving from 600 to 20. I said, absolutely no way. I said, anyway, Clive Lloyd said it's true, so I'll go along. They leave, Greggy and Austin Robertson leave, and I'm anxious now, so I go to the bank after a week, because they said possibly a week or two. I go to the bank after a week, I hand the cashier my little red book, and I say, could you update that book for me, please? And she takes the book, and those days they had a machine that made a lot of noise. They pushed it in the machine, clang, 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 and it came back out, and she handed it to me. And I opened the book, nothing. So I said to myself, there we go. There's no way anyone is paying that sort of money to be playing cricket. So I go back home, I wait another week, I go back to the bank, I push my little red book in again, clang, 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 clang. I get back the red book, and I open the red book, and I see a comma in my bank book. I had never ever seen a comma in my bank book before. And that is when I realized, hell, this thing is for real.
I could hear that 100 times, the comma in the bank book. It's one of the great, great stories. I know you're asked 1,000 times, but it's important because you bowled with some of the greats.
Oh, yes, and against some of the greats.
Yeah, some of the greats. And, of course, your great mate, Malcolm Marshall, who died young at 41. Most would consider him perhaps the greatest of them all. But give us a rating, give us a ranking of those that you played with and the differences and why.
That is tough, Mike.
I know,
see, I'm going to be biased because, see, Andy Roberts is my greatest buddy.
I know.
We roomed together for many years. I was best man at his wedding. He was best man at my wedding. So, we are very, very close. And I'd have to rank Andy Roberts up there with Malcolm Marshall.
Right.
A lot of people don't. But if you talk to the Chappells, they might tell you a bit differently that he was up there because Andy knew the game. Andy taught me a lot as a fast bowler. People would see Andy walking around the place, on the field, off the field, even in the cities, and they would just look at Andy and say, what a grumpy fella that is. Because he never smiled. He never spoke to anyone, he never smiled. But if you got to know him, you'd understand that he had a lot between the ears and knew a lot about the game. And he taught me a lot. I can give you a few instances where Andy even helped me to get wickets. I remember we were in India in 1983, playing in Kanpur or something like that, and Andy had the flu. He could not play. He was in the dressing room, watching on the television set inside the dressing room, and the water card came out. Side Kermani was batting, and the water card came out. I think Derek Parry came out as the 12th man. And Derek came straight to me. I was bowling at the time, and he said, Andy just sent a message to your boss. I said, what's that now, DP? He said, Andy wants you to go around the wicket and attack Kermani's leg stump. So immediately I think to myself, leg stump? How can a fast bowler attack a batsman's leg stump? What is Andy talking about? I said, well, it's Andy Roberts. So water card goes off. I go to the skipper. I said, Skipper Lloyd, and they want me to do this thing, what do you think? And Lloyd said, well, up to you. So I took the ball, went round the wicket, bowled on Kermani's leg stump, and the second ball, the leg stump went cartwheeling. What can I say?
Good call, Andy.
Definitely. The man knew the game. He was watching on television, and he saw Kermani was shuffling across, trying to cover the ball on off stump because of the pace and that sort of thing. And Kermani did not make the adjustment when I went round. He just kept on shuffling across. Leg stump out of the ground.
Getting back to language and that wonderful Jamaican twang and the patois, what was it like in the dressing room at the height? I mean, did all the guys speak of this different... I mean, a lot of people in the West don't understand that the West Indies is a group of sovereign nations within the archipelago.
Different islands.
Different islands, different attitudes, different patois.
Different governments, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes, and some without
different currencies, different flags, and that's why the West Indies haven't got a national anthem. We have a cricketing anthem.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Brian's great country.
Yeah.
Mike, he has a good name, though. Michael David Rudder.
Rally around the West Indies.
Yes, Rally around the West Indies.
Yeah.
It was adopted as our cricketing anthem. But when you travel around the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean islands, irrespective of how quickly we speak, we understand each other. Unless you go to somewhere like St. Lucia, where they then speak a French patois that we from the English-speaking islands would not understand one iota. But when they speak English, irrespective of how quickly they speak, we all understand each other. But when we then go to England, for instance, I played at Derbyshire for a few years, and there were 5 West Indians, some of them, most of them born in England, of course, but grew up in West Indian families in the Derbyshire team. And when we got together and started talking, all the English guys were there like this. They could not understand a word. But we understood each other.
In your new world, well, it's not a new world for you now. You've been doing it for a long time, the broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't you?
2 years.
Yeah.
Close to retirement, no, Mike.
Oh, no, come on. Come on. No, although you could have your Opal senior card now while you're here.
I do.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, another hard news.
I joined the senior line at the bank as well.
I love it. I mean, you are a very forthright broadcaster. You care deeply about the game, and that comes through. How important is it to you to be strong and opinionated as a broadcaster?
Well, I think it's very important. I think people at home need to hear what your thoughts are. I don't think people at home, I think a lot of broadcasters try to tell people at home what they think the people at home want to hear. I'm not really into that. A lot of broadcasters, commentators, they look at the map to see where they are first before they open their mouth. I'm not into that. I'm not going to tell an Australian what he wants to hear and then go to England and tell an Englishman what he wants to hear. I'm going to tell you what I think. I've rubbed a few people up the wrong way, but such is life. I am going to live true to myself. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. And some people take it very personally. Just as when I was playing, some people took the bouncers that I bowled at them very personally. Some of them didn't want to talk to me afterwards, and some did not. I bowled bouncers to a lot of people that we are absolutely great friends right now. Yesterday I worked with one Ian Michael Chappell, who made me cry on a cricket field. But we are the best of friends. I bowled bouncers at Sunil Gavaskar. We are the best of friends. Getting back now to commentary. There are cricketers that I have criticized greatly on television who have come to me and said to me, somebody said you said this, what do you think I should do? And I'm surprised. I said, oh, he didn't come to curse me. Some don't even want to talk to you. But I don't have a problem with that. Once I think within my heart that I gave an honest opinion of what was taking place on the field, I don't worry about it. Sometimes I look back and I think to myself, perhaps I could have toned it down a bit. I'm being very frank. I think to myself, sometimes I could have toned it down a bit, but at the same time, it just doesn't work that way with me. That's an afterthought. When I'm there, that thought is not in my head. My thought is to just say what I see. The former England captain of the one-day team, who I think is still going to be captain of the test team, he went for about 9 months without even talking to me because I said on Sky once that I didn't think he was as good as his record indicated. And the last 18 months, I think his record is coming back to what it should be. Because people have now discovered how to bowl to him.
Yeah.
And if I go back now and he has heard that I said that and doesn't want to speak to me again, tough luck.
Now, before we let you go, on the personal front, you've got kids dotted around the world. Bring us up to date with not as many as IVA Richards, of course.
Yes, I do have kids, not quite dotted around the world. I have a son here in Australia, in Brisbane.
Is Ryan still here?
Yes, Ryan is still. As a matter of fact, he's coming to Sydney on the 24th.
Excellent. What is he doing now? Bring us up to date with.
He works with the Brisbane City Council. He was with Channel 10 a few years ago in Australia. Yeah. He's now with the Brisbane City Council. So if you have any things that you need done in Brisbane that you think the council needs to help you with,
how old is he?
The back pocket is here.
How old is he?
Ryan was born April 1981, so he'll be 34 in April coming.
Right.
He lives with his mother, my ex-wife. No, not with. His mother still lives in Brisbane.
Right.
But he is married now. No kids yet. His wife is a psychology major And when they got married in 2011, I said, I hope you can get into his head better than I could. My 2 daughters live in Florida. The eldest one got married about 3 years ago, so I'm now a granddad from July last year.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And the youngest one just got married in March and now looking for her own residence.
Oh, tremendous, mate, tremendous. And so Ryan, will you see Ryan while you're here?
Yeah, he comes here on the 24th. He comes from Brisbane on the 24th for 4 days.
Oh, excellent.
And I'm working on the 24th, but then I don't work again until the finals, so I'll have a few days off with him.
We can't let you go without a thought on the finals. You've watched a lot of cricket in recent weeks.
Yes, I've fallen asleep in front of the telly a few times as well. No, but honestly, how long is this Cricket World Cup?
It's been in...
How many games have we had, Mike? I think we have had 45 games.
I think we've got 3 to go.
No, but we have already had 45.
Oh, yeah. Is it 48 or 49 we're meant to have?
Well, perhaps we have had 46 then, and we have perhaps had 3 good games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I hope the last 3 are good games, and they should be, because I think we have some good teams now playing. The 4 teams left are the 4 top-ranked teams in ODIs.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get 2 good semi-finals and a final, because believe me, we need it.
And give us a tip. Give us a tip.
Before a ball was bowled, I suggested that New Zealand would get to the final, because with them playing all their games at home, even the semi-final being slotted back at home in New Zealand, I gave them every chance of getting to the finals. Who they'll play in the finals now is obviously between India and Australia. I think Australia have a better team, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll win, because whenever people tell me about the best team winning, I refer them back to 1983 in London. Anyone who thinks that the 83 Indian team, not trying to take anything away from Harsha and his boys, but anyone who thinks the 83 Indian team was better than the West Indies 83 team, not quite.
And wasn't that extraordinary? Because in terms of cricket history, that result of Kapil Dev's team beating you in 1983 changed the entire mentality of world cricket.
Definitely.
India became seduced by the one-day game, and so it changed. And what happened again in 2007 in South Africa with T20? India wins it out of the blue with Dhoni.
And changes the game.
Changes the game.
Not for the better, though.
No, that's true. No, we'll develop that with the T20 theme. I mean, what worries me is that it marginalises the conversation of the game. Or not marginalise it. Everybody's talking T20, money and everything else. I mean, is the game, as we know it, the traditional game, suffering because of it?
I think so. I think traditional cricket is suffering because of it. And I would love to see the powers that be stop T20 internationals. Stop the test-playing nations from playing T20 games. Make it be a club thing or a franchise thing, where there are so many all over the world. Sure, go ahead with that. It's entertainment for people. It's bringing money to certain people. It's not really helping the game as far as I'm concerned, the longer form of the game. And I don't think you need international T20 matches. IPL, Big Bash, what's one in South Africa? Don't remember. Yeah, wherever. The CPL in the Caribbean. People flock to it because in their minds this is great entertainment. And I can understand people wanting to be entertained. I have no problem with that. People also want to make money, cricketers that is, and they will flock to it. And if I was a young man today, I would go and play T20 as well. I would go, somebody's going to give me $800,000 to play 6 weeks in India and I don't go? You have got to be joking. I'm going to go. So I don't blame any cricketer for wanting to go and play in these T20 leagues. When I was a young man, Mike, my parents were responsible for my development. I was not primarily responsible. I had some responsibility, yes, but I was not primarily responsible. My parents were. The ICC and the administrators are the parents of cricket. They are responsible for the development of the game, not the cricketers. They have a responsibility, yes, but they are not the primary people responsible for the development of the game. As the administrators that I hold accountable for what's happening with world cricket.
It's wonderful to have you back. It's
always glad to be back, Mike.
You love it down here too, don't you?
I've been coming since 75. This is about my 23rd trip.
Yeah. Well, we love having you. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Michael Holding.
Thank you.